Welcome to myFace, myStory, voices from the craniofacial community, with your host, Dina Zuckerberg.
Hello and welcome. You are tuning into myFace, myStory, voices from the craniofacial community. Don't forget to click subscribe so that you'll never miss a future episode. I am Dina Zuckerberg, Director of Family Programs at myFace. I was born with a cleft lip, a hearing loss, and no vision in my left eye, but it has never stopped me from doing anything I've wanted to do in my life. I had 6 surgeries, years of orthodontics, and speech therapy growing up. In school, I was teased. Kids would say mean things, and I would sit alone sometimes on the school bus and in the lunchroom. I have come to strongly believe that there is power in the shared story, in knowing you are not alone. So anyone out there like me, I see you. We all do. It's about people like us being seen and heard, about sharing stories within the craniofacial community and with others. Today's episode is about the transition from high school to college or to work. As you move into early adulthood, you are discovering who you are as a person, your identity. Where do you fit in while trying to cultivate a new community and figuring out what you want to do with your life? The transition from adolescence to adulthood brings many new responsibilities. It also brings many new opportunities, which may chart the course of your life. This life transition is challenging for everyone, but can be particularly challenging for someone with a facial difference. While you are no longer a child, you may still carry around some of the baggage or trauma from childhood. But now you are on your own. You are at a point where you are having to advocate for yourself as you go off to college, have interviews, go on dates, and maybe still have surgeries or other procedures. I know for me, when I went away to college, it was definitely an adjustment. I was no longer living at home having my parents advocate for me. I had to advocate for myself. In some ways, I had to start all over, meeting new people, navigating a new landscape and social cultural scene, and making new friends. This is something that I always found challenging for me because of my facial difference. I had to figure out where I fit in all over again and take in how others saw me. With our special guests, we are going to explore these issues and more. Ava Beeler is 18 years old. She was born with a rare genetic condition called Pfeiffer syndrome type 2. She has undergone many surgeries and years of orthodontic care. Ava is currently a freshman at Manchester Community College. She would like to become a psychologist one day and help others. Her dream is to run a therapy group for people who have facial differences and make them feel less alone. Hi, Ava. Welcome.
Hi.
Melvin Farmer, also known as Too Hungry, is an entrepreneur, activist, influencer, and entertainer, and at 21 years old is already an accomplished musician. Melvin was born with hemifacial microsomia, which means the left side of his face is underdeveloped, which caused challenges in his life. Melvin mentors young boys with similar diagnoses through a program called YOLO Tango at Children's Hospital, Los Angeles. Welcome, Melvin.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Naomi Levinshtein is a creative, passionate, and expressive 21-year-old woman. As a makeup artist with a cleft lip and palate, she knows firsthand the impact a facial difference can have on one's confidence and self-esteem. Makeup has allowed Naomi to express herself in a way that makes her feel strong, empowered, and beautiful. She is a fierce advocate of teaching compassion and empathy and promoting beauty from within. Naomi is getting ready to graduate college this year with a degree in accounting. Hi,
Hi.
Naomi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Alexis Johns is a pediatric psychologist at Children's Hospital Los Angeles in the Division of Plastic and Maxillofacial Surgery and at the University of Southern California University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities. She is an associate professor of clinical pediatrics at the Keck School of Medicine of USC. Dr. Johns has focused on craniofacial diagnoses since 2007 and represents psychology on several multidisciplinary teams, as well as collaborating on craniofacial research projects. Hi, Dr. Johns. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to start with you, Ava. As a freshman in college, what would you say have been your greatest challenges as you transitioned from high school to college?
So I would say that the biggest challenges for me were just adjusting to the new college life, because I wanted to get out of my town and explore, and go to Manchester Community College, where there's other people in Connecticut from other towns, and I really enjoyed that. I think the hardest part for me was just making friends. Like the first semester, I felt like really alone, or just adjusting. And the other thing was I was transitioning out of a major surgery while going to school. I think that was really hard because I spent my whole summer doing school or doing the surgery and recovering, that by the time I went to school, it was so hard that I hadn't processed that I was going to college. So when I did, it felt really challenging, a lot of anxiety, and yeah. But now I'm happy.
I'm glad. Naomi, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
I transitioned to college. My transition to college was a little different. My school, the first college I went to, was quite close to where I went to high school, but I really appreciated the change. I think it's really hard for anyone with a craniofacial problem to enter a new environment because it's a whole new set of eyes. But in my experience in college, uh, I felt a lot more empowered to be who I was versus who I was supposed to be when I was younger and had to be stuck with the same people continuously. Does that make sense?
Yeah. To what you said, Ava, I think a lot of people in the craniofacial community will have their surgeries sometimes right before they're going to college. So I know that you're not alone in that transition and having surgeries last summer. Uh, I wanted to ask you, Ava, because I know I mentioned it in your bio, but what has inspired you to want to major in psychology?
So for me personally, I am a really patient person. I love to talk to people. I love interacting with people. I'm always there for anybody who is in need of help. And so I cannot picture myself in an office working at a desk 9 to 5. That's just not the type of person that I am. I love the feeling of interacting with others, and the thought of helping people just makes my heart happy. So, yeah.
And do you think maybe also because of your own experience of growing up with a craniofacial difference um, and having that support made you also think about wanting to be a psychology major?
Yes, absolutely. I've had a lot of great role models to look up to, and they have all inspired me to be like them.
So we have actually a comment from Pat Shabaro saying, "So proud of my amazing patients. Where did the years go by?"
Love you, Pat.
Yes.
Yes.
I just want to say that, Ava, I have no doubt that you'll do amazing things with your career as you move forward. Naomi, as you get ready to graduate college in the spring, what have you learned about yourself over these past 4 years?
I think I learned a lot about myself and how to navigate my trauma and how I need to work through it. I think when I got to college, I was just starting to become my own person and deal with it and come to terms. Come back to me.
Okay.
Come back to me. I'm thinking.
Okay, absolutely. So, Melvin, do you think having a facial difference offers you insights that others may not have as you made the transition from high school to being an adult, a young adult?
Um, yes, yes, because we see the world differently. It's not as black and white as it can be for most people. We see the in between. So whether we are being bullied by somebody else, at the same time, most of us will understand that they're just scared of what they don't understand.
Right.
And at times, it can be hard having that way of thinking because you let so much stuff go by. But yeah, I definitely have a different perception about life.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Johns, we've just heard about some of the challenges it can be to make the transition from high school to college or the workplace, especially with a facial difference. I imagine you hear this often in the work that you do. How do you help adolescents prepare for this major life transition?
Yeah, it is so many changes at once for everyone. It's kind of overwhelming. I'm super excited to hear about future psychologist Ava. That's awesome. We definitely need more people in the field who have the lived experience that you bring, and so that's fantastic. But in thinking about how I try to prepare people who I'm working with in team, there are so many different. There's developmentally, medically, education, legal. There's so many facets going on. So I have a lot I can say about this, and you can cut me off at any time. But
Mhm.
I think one of the big things that we've already heard a little bit is as as we go into young adulthood, we mature, we have all these different experiences beyond high school. It impacts our self-image and our confidence in a different way. Generally, what I hear from young people who I see in craniofacial team, and what is also consistent in the cleft and craniofacial research, is that there is an increasingly positive self-image and an increase in self-confidence, but it is not a straight path. There are periods of intense self-doubt, and impact of a diagnosis on appearance can really come to the forefront, and it's sort of this push and pull, but it goes in a forward direction. It ends up being much more positive. So that's something I try to talk about during team, so that people are aware that that's happening, that that's very typical of what's going on, and try to have them focus on their strengths, what they have pride in, who they can support. They can count on for support in their family, their community. I also talk about dating expectations and touch a little bit on sort of like social media precautions and safer sex practices, which can be a little embarrassing in team, but it's important conversations to be having, and hopefully, the teens and young adolescents have people that they can talk to. I try to have families continue those conversations. Medically, there's a whole lot going on. There's so much. Oh my gosh, we could talk an hour about that on its own. But I think, as you said, there are a lot of surgeries going on. And so having a surgery right before going to college and you have all this stuff going on, it just throws everything off. And so trying to prepare and talk about that a lot in team, it could be something like a jaw surgery, or it could be a rhinoplasty, it could be so many different things. And how that's going to impact appearance over time, and prepare for that, and to have realistic expectations. Also about how all the care coordination that was with the team is going to go now to a primary care provider with an adult. And that's a big shift. And who is that person going to be? Is it the family physician, who might be appropriate sometimes, but it might be someone with more specialty care? And then there's all the educational things going on. If they've had an IEP or a 504 plan or supports in high school, it's going to look really different in college. And having really transparent conversations about this is the type of support that you've been used to that you can continue with, and here are the things that you're going to have to approximate in other ways. So a lot of conversations about that, and really promoting the college counseling centers can help with a lot of resources and groups and adjustment to just being in college, because it's such a shift. And then there's also people going right into the job market. So talking with them about what are their rights depending on their medical need based on federal and state law. And finally, there's just you become legally an adult. And so what does that mean in terms of all the forms that your parents used to sign? Now they need to, shift over, and it's this whole different mindset. And also like really logistical things is if they don't have a driver's license, let's get a state ID card, and maybe as a second form of ID, a passport or something else, because you're not going to always have your high school student ID anymore to prove who you are. So there is a lot to cover when it comes to preparing for transition.
I was going to say there is a lot to think about. Naomi, did you have something you wanted to add?
I was going to go off what Dr. Johns is saying. In my experience as well, the transition to college, while it is more of an inconsistent and there's ups and downs, and is overall very positive. Learning to be an adult and advocate for yourself, especially when you have all these medical issues, is extremely hard and taxing. You're going to be making a lot of very big decisions. I know I'm at a point where I'm balancing so many options, and that's on my mind all the time. And it's hard, looking back at pictures and trying to, envision where I am going to be 6 months from now in college or work or surgery. How am I going to weave that in to my normal life? It's difficult, but it's worth it, and I feel a lot better for it. I'm in a much better place than I was in high school, when I was around a bunch of people who cared way too much what they all thought, what everyone thought, because that's how kids are. When you're in college, I think people are starting to realize, oh wait, I have a mind of my own, and I don't have to rely on what Bob or Joe Schmo is telling me. While I have had hot and cold experiences, it's all overarchingly happy. And I'm much more confident in myself for it.
That's great. Melvin, did you have something to add?
Yeah, although I didn't finish college, I made sure to have a good community of people, to make sure the environment and transitioning from the environment where I was I felt safe as far as my condition being respected, cared about, and me going into seminars with probably hundreds of students and still being able to get all the information just as well as anybody else. So I made sure have people go over my IT, update plans, make accommodations, stuff like that. And a lot of times they helped me out with getting my books and all the extra equipment, because some of that stuff is really pricey. So having a good community of people, I would say, is the best thing. At least like 2 people, I would say.
So important, right? Ava, how have you had to advocate for yourself, or have you had to do that?
So I would say, I want to say thank you to my parents. My parents have always been people who have always wanted me to be involved. Like, I am a person that, since I was a kid, I've always been involved in discussions. I've always wanted to be. I think it's something that's really important, but I think it should be gradual. Maybe when they're little, you start them out as they're present in the room. And then maybe when they're 10, I don't know, anybody can chime in. But I mean, when I was about 10 or older, I started just asking questions and talking about the surgery. And really, because I think at that age, by the time I was 10, I really was starting to understand, like, oh my gosh, I'm about to have a major surgery. I'm about to leave school. That's a lot for a kid to process. And when I was 6 or 7, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that at all. Like, I personally don't remember any of my surgeries. Most of my surgeries before 10,
Yeah.
which I
It's
feel
much
grateful
worse
for.
as an adult. It's worse when you're an adult, in my experience, because you're much more aware and you remember things a lot more should I say. So every time, like as an adult, I go into a surgery, I'm like, oh my god, it's like no big deal. I mean, I had this surgery and that surgery when I was a kid, and I was able to go play in a playground a week later, and without a second thought, now as an adult, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awful.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I think the thing that is really challenging is when you grow up, you're more aware about your feelings, but in a way, you can look at it as, okay, I'm anxious. So, like, I know for a fact that before I have surgery, I'm anxious. So, therefore, what do? I ask questions. I talk to doctors. I talk to my parents. I ask questions. It's so important to ask questions instead of trying to make like an assumption in your head, because sometimes the assumption that you make in your head is like 10 times worse than the actual thing that's about to happen. Yeah.
So true. So I want to shift a little bit. I know you've all found something in your life that you are passionate about. For Melvin, it's your music. For Ava, it's your cooking. And for Naomi, it's your makeup and Instagram page. Can you each talk a little bit about that and how it has helped you to find your voice, your place in the world? And maybe Melvin or Ava, why don't we start with you?
Yeah. So for me, I feel that, in my opinion, everybody should have something like a hobby or something to make them feel happy, to escape from work, school, whatever is on your, even medical appointments. Do something that makes you happy. For me, that's cooking. I love to be in the kitchen. I'm actually in my kitchen right now filming this. Um, but I love to be in the kitchen. I love to be creative. I love having an outlet. It somehow, when I'm cooking, the only thing that I'm focused on is my food, nothing else, not an assignment, not a test, because I'm only focused on this one thing that I'm doing, and it somehow releases my stress. I think because it's distracting me from everything else that I'm going through. So yeah, it just brings me happiness. I can't explain it. It truly brings me happiness.
That's great. Naomi,
Ava's a great cook. I can vouch for that.
yes.
Thank you.
It's no problem. For me, it's makeup. I got into it when I was a teenager, but it's gotten more serious as I've grown up. I have my Instagram page and I do client work, but I think why I gravitate so much towards my social media page is the fact that I'm able to communicate with people like me. I have so many people like with cleft lip and palates or parents that follow me, and we're able to have discussions, and I'm able to talk about how I'm feeling, and I know that I feel heard because I'll have people respond, and I know other people, the people watching, have big benefit because they're also learning, okay, maybe this is how I'm going to feel however long from now. Oh, as a parent, this is what I'm going to expect. And it gave me the confidence to walk around in the world with like my head held high because I have something I'm good at, something I can take pride in. And I think that everyone should have that. You know, maybe you don't necessarily have to be good at it. I think I'm pretty good at it. But
You're fabulous at it. I love your
thank
page.
you.
Yes.
But yeah, I feel like I'm making a difference in someone else's life and making them feel a lot less alone. That's what they tell me. So I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, I've heard from so many parents and kids that I know that have been impacted by what you do, Naomi. So I hear it. So many people go, "Oh, I know who that is. She has an Instagram page. She's this." So you are definitely having an impact.
Thank you.
And Melvin, we were talking about how has your music, how has that helped you to find your voice or your place in the world?
Um, Creating art, creating anything is my purpose for being alive. I feel like music has saved me countless times. Being in South Los Angeles, growing up as a young black male is really hard, especially having a craniofacial difference, trying to fit in, knowing that I can't do all the sports and all the stuff that people are usually good at. So rapping was the way for me to kind of feel normal, for whether it was 12 seconds or 12 minutes of a cipher. And that second is having everybody just admire what I worked on and my skills and my talent, in a sense, makes me feel just a tad bit more normal. Although I feel like I already am today, but back then I didn't. So yeah. And when I couldn't express certain things, I would do it through my music, and I still do it through my music. I made a song called myFace, which basically explains my diagnosis and how I felt about growing up with it at the time. So we just recently did a music video for that, which is pretty interesting. Um, yeah, music is not everything. Music, I'm never gonna stop making music. As long as I live, as long as I have a story to tell, I will put it in a song.
Uh, it's a great song. I actually have heard the song. It's really good. So I had a question, but I'm going to phrase it a little differently. Who would you say in your life has helped you prepare for the transition to adulthood? So is it your parents, your medical team, your school, your teachers? Who do you
It's
think
like a
has?
mix of everybody. Dr. Johns most definitely helps me out a lot. With Yellow Tango, I'm always excited to see Dr. John and ask him when's the next one available so I can go back to mentoring at the hospital. Um, I have a friend named Adam who was very helpful. He invests into me. He believes in everything that I create. And I met him through Yellow Tango, which is pretty awesome. My mom is a great support, though she's pretty stern. So sometimes I want to go to somebody a little bit nicer.
Oh.
Yeah.
I hear
And Naomi, do you have?
I'm really lucky. I have a good support system in terms of I have really great friends. My mom is really hands on and has always helped me get to where I need to be. But in terms of encouraging me to be independent and grow up, I'd say my therapist. I think my therapist always holds me accountable and, you know, encourages me when I need encouragement, calms me down when I need to calm down, and tells me like it is. Like, if you want this result, you have to do XYZ. If you feel like this, maybe you should try this, that, and this. So, my therapist is a queen.
Awesome.
And Ava?
Yeah, so for me, I would say it's like a mix of people. First off, my parents have always believed in me. They have always told me like to go for anything that I set my mind to. They've always wanted me to be involved, and they've always wanted me to ask questions when it comes to anything medical. They I remember when we would be in doctor appointments, and I would say to them, like, they would have like a paper, and it was like a list of questions, and I'd say, "Oh, what's this?" And they'd be like, "You do it. You try it. Try answering the questions if you want. Like, you know what is." up with you, like, what you need. And so I would like list off and check and do all the things, and I would write my signature, and like I felt so proud of myself. And like now being 19, my parents are still always going to be a part of my medical world, but now I feel like my voice, I have so much power. There's so much power in speaking up for yourself and advocating for yourself. If you feel like there's something wrong or you're questioning something, speak up, because it's seriously the best thing ever. Doctors will listen. My doctors are the best, and they're always willing to listen. So, yeah, I would say my parents and some of my teachers as well.
Yeah, so important, right, to have that somebody in your life that supports you and is there for you. We actually have a comment from someone Nadia, who has APER syndrome, and she says that she has a huge support system. She has a close family. Her brother is one of her best friends, and she has a great group of friends. So important, right? So, Dr. Johns, do you have any advice for parents about how to best support their child as they move towards greater independence?
I am so happy to hear Ava's examples, because I feel like your parents deserve a medal for doing everything right. That
Thank
they,
you.
yeah, all the advice that I would give, it's just follow what Ava's parents did. Basically, start young. It's so huge. Hopefully, medical teams are including children starting in school age in those discussions, like Ava was saying, being in the room, hearing about it, being included in that. And then transition specifically is generally introduced around age 12 is the sort of the standard to start talking about that. But it's the practice of filling out the history forms, of knowing, how does health insurance work, what's an authorization, how do I keep track of all of this, being able to have kids listen in on how appointments are scheduled, and then have them practiced doing it at 14, 15, 16, so that by the time they hit 18, they've been doing it with the support and having parents there, and then they're ready to go because they've had all this practice filling out the forms and keeping track of everything that they, it's a whole subspecialty of skills to keep track of craniofacial care. It is really complicated. And so the idea that we would have someone just pick it up on day one after their 18th birthday, of course, is not going to work out. It takes a lot of practice, and it can start young. And parents and medical teams are hopefully helping kids do all of those little things. I know parents sometimes want to save their kids the stress or the hassle, but they actually do a great service to their kids if they start to give them that incremental responsibility in their care. Just like they do at other things as home. It's start young. That's my big take home.
Yeah, it's really, I think it's true. I think it helps with the transition when you've already had some preparation for that. And I think sometimes parents are so worried about what's going to be the future for their child that so I think having that practical advice on how they can support their child is really important. So I want to move to a different topic. Equally important is that I know a lot of you are at the point of navigating the work world and just even just interviewing for different things and applying for jobs or different things that you want to do. And so interviewing is an important first step. How has that process been for you? Has having a facial difference created any unique challenges for you? Naomi, I don't know if you have anything to say on that.
I have had a few interviews in my life. I would say I've only had one negative one. It was at a retail store, and even though I was wearing all the clothes from said retail store, they told me I wasn't the right look for their brand. Which at the time, I think I was 15, was a little bit hard to hear. So I think from that moment on, I had a very distinct awareness of how, you know, people can understand my condition and how it might not fit into the box of a beauty space or a retail space or, like fashion. And I think, although that's awful, it motivated me more to advocate for what I want, which is having people see us as people. Yeah, and I'm scared about interviewing for a job. I think anyone is, but I always put in 100% effort into my knowledge, how I present myself, and how I articulate myself.
And Ava?
Yeah, so for me, when I was applying for jobs, I was more focused not on the physical, but more just like the mental health. Like if I had to take a mental health day or if I had to go to a Friday doctor appointment and in New York and not be at work, was that going to be okay? And was I going to have a supportive staff? And luckily, the place that I work at is very supportive, very kind, great hours. I love it there. I work in an after school program. It's really cool. I get to work with kids, and they're really cute. And yeah, for me, it was mostly not just like the physical difference. Luckily, nobody sees me as different at all. But more just if I had to take a mental health day, would that be okay with the people that I was working for?
I think that's hard to come by, truly, and I'm so grateful that you found that. Um, I'm often really afraid about, transitioning into the workforce and how that might look because, even now when I'm in college, I have to pick certain days where I shouldn't have class so I can have the doctor's appointments if I needed it, which more often than not I do. So it is really scary, and I'm still in the process of navigating that.
It's an ongoing process, right?
Yeah, finding the balance, the boundaries, and the right people that will understand or try to understand.
So we actually have a question from Vera wanting to know, was there anything the schools did to support your transition to adulthood that you think was helpful? Anybody have thoughts on that? Or maybe Dr. Johns, if
I
you have
do.
any.
I
Okay,
might.
Ava.
Yeah, I do. I just want to actually give a shout out to a teacher. Her name is Kathleen Kalankowski. She was seriously, I think, the best teacher that I ever had. She saw me, I was in 8th grade, so I was transitioning to high school. And so at the time, I was sort of in the middle of like trying to fit in and like trying to figure out like how to be like a grown up and, not rely on other people because for 10 plus years or for 10 years, I relied on a nurse because I had a trach and a G tube. And so I had medical issues. And so for a while, I was just like, hey, could you go get that? Like, I don't feel like it. Like I was so silly when I was a kid. So I didn't really have a good role model for a while. Like when it came to like doing things for myself or talking to teachers. And this teacher really just saw my potential in me. She just saw worth and she saw potential and she saw like, yes, you can email a teacher by yourself and you can talk to the teacher by yourself. You don't need me. You don't need my help. And we're still best friends. We still keep in touch. I consider her a close friend. And I'm just really grateful for everything that she did for me to help me transition to college and high school and helping me become a better independent adult.
So cute.
I love hearing about the individuals in the education system who make a difference. I think it's the teachers that care that can make that powerful impact. Unfortunately, as a system, I think a lot of times educational setup doesn't always serve for transition the way that we would hope. And so I think there's a lot of room for progress there. But I think the individual people who do it are amazing. And when it comes time to going to the workforce, I know that I've talked to some people who have said that they've really wanted to take ownership over their diagnosis and how it's perceived by potential employers. And so they've thought about ahead of time how they want to speak about it, how they want to bring it up, and also having just familiarity with what's federal labor law, what's your state labor law, because you do have rights in terms of making medical appointments and things like that. And so being a little informed and prepared, I know I've talked to people who sometimes you're going to have a very sour response from someone, and that may tell you that is not the position you would actually be happy in any case. Of course, we all want to be paid and have a job at the end, but you are also interviewing them to see if they're worth your time as a place of an employment. But I think having that preparation ahead of time about how are you going to say, hey, this is something that I periodically need to go in for medical care. This is how I'm going to explain it to them, and think about it ahead of time so that they're not guessing or making these assumptions that you have given them the language and you're taking ownership over it, can be powerful and effective when it comes to looking in the job market.
Great, really great piece of advice, and I agree with you. So we could go on and on for so long there on so many topics, but here's my question for all of you. So what's one piece of advice you would give to the parent of a young child with a facial difference that may be concerned about their child's future? So why don't we start with Melvin? What's your one piece of advice you would give a parent?
I would say be patient and be flexible, because we're gonna have our ups and downs. It's gonna be times where we feel like we got it, mom, and you just need to go be a mom. And there's gonna be times where it's like all I want is mom, and mom is not here. So yeah, be flexible, be patient. I don't really think there's much to worry about. When I watch those young guys at Yellow Tango grow up, I think maybe if I didn't have the lived experience, I would probably worry too. But since I have, and my peers who mentor them with me, like we all stay in connection together, constantly talking. We go to each other's birthday parties and stuff. I think that gives the parents a lot of hope when they get to see others like 18 years, 21 years into their living, and see that we can function well, and sometimes probably a little bit more better than the average human.
Ava?
I would say the most important thing is to have a good community of friends, have a really good community of friends and family and doctors, have people that are on your team, and that really helps you get through the journey. I know people that are older than me, like Naomi, who have helped me, and I know people that are younger than me, and I'm helping them. It's such a beautiful thing that the internet brings people together. And I think with community, it helps everybody together. So yeah, that's my one piece of advice.
And Naomi?
So like Melvin said, patience, kindness, give us time and space to figure things out. I think having a craniofacial difference obviously is a big deal, and you're going to have to make a lot of big decisions throughout your life. And sometimes we don't want to talk about it, and there are times where we do. And, never push your own ideals on your children. This is our life, this is our body, and we need to be able to articulate what we need and what we want to do. And another piece of advice, I think, is never allow your child to feel like other or not normal. I would try to find, other families, other kids, speak to them, communicate. I really, really wish I had that growing up. I think I would have felt a lot less alone and a lot less different if I knew more people that were on the same wavelength, doing the same things, experiencing exactly how I'm feeling. And I mean, that's a very big piece of advice, and I'm trying to help with that. So if anyone needs someone to talk to, whether you're a parent, whether you're someone with a craniofacial difference, I'm here. That's my thing.
I was going to say that it's like I always say, right? There's power in the shared story and knowing you're not alone. And so, Dr. Johns, do you have any one piece of advice you would give to parents or even to young adults?
Yeah, I really agree with all this amazing advice that's being offered. The instilling of hope from community is so powerful, and I think that's what Melvin is talking about. I know he has given such hope to so many parents and younger kids because they've seen how amazing he is doing, and I think we don't realize how that's just taken for granted. But if you don't have someone else in your life with a similar experience or diagnosis, then how would you possibly know? And so it's this vacuum that can very easily become negative when, if you start to fill it with people, you see how amazing and wonderful, and as someone said, even better perhaps than someone who's not gone through the maturity and empathy and perspective taking that comes with having a craniofacial diagnosis. So I think being open, a lot of community, and having hope is the key for parents and also for adolescents.
All amazing advice. And we actually have a comment from Stephanie who says, our future is so bright with these amazing young people launching into the world. And I could not agree more with that. So thank you all. I just want to leave you with this quote from Michael Josephson. Take pride in how far you've come. Have faith in how far you can go, but don't forget to enjoy the journey. And I think is so true. So I really want to thank each of you so much. We could go on and on, but I want to thank you so much for giving so much of yourself today and every day. And I'm hopeful that these conversations can help others better understand our stories while also creating a kinder world for all people with craniofacial differences. So thank you so much. For more than 70 years, myFace has been dedicated to changing the faces and transforming the lives of children and adults with facial differences by providing access to holistic, comprehensive care, education, resources, and support that pave the way for better outcomes. To learn more, please visit myface.org. If you would like to learn more about the myFace support groups so that you can connect with others in the craniofacial community, please visit myface.org/online-groups. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to myFace's YouTube channel to catch future live broadcasts of myFace, myStory. You can also listen to the audio recording on your favorite podcast app, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. If you'd like to receive email reminders of new episodes, sign up at myface.org/mystory. That's myface.org/mystory. Thank you all for joining us for this episode of myFace, myStory, and I hope you will join us for our next episode in April when we will be speaking with author Shelley Hall. That's it for tonight's episode of myFace, myStory. But remember, it takes courage to share your story. So be brave and speak out. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Paul, the Executive Director of myFace. myFace is a nonprofit organization dedicated to changing the faces and transforming the lives of children and adults with facial differences. We do this through various programs and events such as the Transforming Lives educational webinar series, Races for Faces, the Wonder Project, and the groundbreaking myFace, myStory conversational series. You can learn more about all of these on our website at myface.org. If you enjoyed today's program, we hope you'll consider making a donation to help keep programs like this possible, as well as to further the support of the craniofacial community. Thank you.